All righty. Good morning. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us and taking your time to join us on a Saturday at that. This beautiful Saturday afternoon. My name is Walisha Wilson. I am the founder of New Life Second Chance Outreach Incorporated, an organization here in Georgia that exclusively serves individuals who are justice involved, formerly incarcerated, connect with the resources that they need to be successful in their reentry. This today is our last session of our financial tracking for entrepreneurs. One of our focus areas at New Life Second Chance, the other two are reentry and education, where we also do digital literacy, voter education, and entrepreneurship. We are really big on sometimes because folks will not give people, just as impacted folks, the opportunity for employment. We're really big on pushing entrepreneurship and helping folks guide with those. And one of the things that one of the biggest problems that people who have businesses, even folks who are established, and if you read about it in the news with a lot of celebrities, a lot of people are not managing their money right. They don't owe taxes and they don't even know how to read certain sheets and things. And so we want to be able to support our entrepreneurs, whether you're justice impacted, formerly incarcerated, or not. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, but you need ways to track your budgeting. The information that Tom has been giving us for the past 7 sessions, and they are every 2 weeks. So we've been doing this about 4 months. For those past 6 sessions have been amazing in teaching us how to budget and track our finances using Excel as well as Google Sheets. If you're like me, you probably prefer Google Sheets. To me, I find it much easier. Very challenging to use Excel, but I have found the work that he has been giving us over the last 4.5 months extremely helpful, from learning how to use pivot charts to learning how to tell the difference between a sale, how to copy and paste sales, and my biggest, which I found the very most helpful, is being able to add sums that when you add it, it automatically totals up. I will have all of these numbers going up and down my page, and I was using my calculator to try to add everything and total it up. That was exhausting. So thanks to Tom, now I am not only able to do my own personal finances, but the finances that I have for all three of my businesses, and be able to do it effectively and efficiently because of what I've learned through here. And as I stated when we first started this class myself, looking out for these, trying to actually find Excel trainings, people were trying to charge 400 to upward to $800 for an Excel training. And so we're extremely grateful for Tom coming on here to dedicate his time and he's an Excel person. I'm a Google Sheet person, but also being very patient with those of us who are not knowledgeable in Excel. But for us to be able to provide these services to you all for free, because I said they are very expensive. And if you're just wanting to track your financials for whatever reason, between your business and what you want to use for entertainment, paying your bills, or being able to do your income statement, your quarterly income statement, cash flow statements, and whatever financial records you have to have at the end of the year when it comes time to pay your self-employment taxes as an entrepreneur. This class is very helpful. So I would like to thank you all for joining us. And of course, the man of the hour is Tom O'Jay, who is at the DeKalb County Library, started the Sparks program. And the program focuses on helping directly impacted, justice involved folks get connected with digital literacy skills as well as these financial tracking programs. So we'd like to thank you again for us, Tom. I emailed everybody yesterday your homework assignment for them to do it. And for those of you who are on the line who were able to do it, if you have an opportunity where Tom, you're able to share it, or you were not on that email, or you registered after we received you that email, don't worry about it. He's going to go over, and that's what he's going to be doing today. So from this point on, Tom, you got it. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we're going to go ahead and let Tom do his thing. You're muted.
Always forget to do that. Okay, now I can talk. I want to thank everyone for coming today, this afternoon. So I think we're going to do, as I said, this is kind of the end session. So we're going to use this as an opportunity. If you had a chance to create a worksheet, like I said in the email, for the homework, using any of the concepts we went over the last several weeks, whether it be like tables, sorting data, filtering data, making a budget sheet, using formulas or a function to add up your expenses. So if you did not have a chance to do that, I am more than happy to answer any questions that you may have about Excel or Google Sheets. Like anything we went over in the last several weeks, if you need a refresher, we can use that as an opportunity to do that today as well too. Because I'm a big believer that the more and more you do this, the easier that it gets. So if you're only doing this a few times, you're getting frustrated. Today would be a great time to go ahead and start asking some questions or sharing what you may have. Okay, so with that in mind, was anybody able to come up with a worksheet on their own? And it's fine, as I said, it's fine if you're not able to do that because we can address some questions. So if you want to go ahead and put in the chat, let's see where the chat is. If you were able to do that, I'll give you guys a few minutes or a few seconds to go ahead and put anything in the chat you might have. Okay. So as that's going on, so what we're going
Let
to
you
do
know I
now, I'm
did
going to
not do
go.
mine. I said I wanted to be just transparent that I did not get to mine like I
Okay.
wanted to do. I actually had my list of expenses and I wanted to be able to show a graph to show how in what areas I want to challenge myself. So I
Mhm.
wrote down my list of expenses, and that's the far as I got because I was discussing
Okay.
about what I was spending my money on. But the goal of it was to not only list the expenses, but to create a pie chart of
Hmm.
to see how I am spending my expenses because my goal is to spend less than 15% of my income on eating out. And so
Okay.
from the
Well, good
numbers
luck
that
with
I
that.
had, it is very clear that I'm spending well over 40% on eating
Right.
out. I don't know what that is, but it was a lot of numbers. And so I just have not done the graph because I don't want to be disgusted at what I'm gonna see. But I
Right.
have done the numbers.
Okay. Okay. And then thank you for sharing. So I think what we're going to do was anybody else, and it's fine, as I said, it's completely fine if you weren't able to do a worksheet. So I think what we can do, so from hearing from Alicia, like she would like to kind of go over graphs and charts again. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean we don't have to because I know you did cover this in
Oh, it's fine.
a different web a link. And I did watch that again.
Hmm.
But that was my goal. I know you said according to the worksheet that we could have done. You said you wanted us to use the class to create a worksheet that relates to your business. Please create a worksheet that would be most helpful. So I didn't
Yeah.
know if this you wanted us do this beforehand or is this something you were going to do during class? But I didn't want to waste
We can do
time.
either one.
Okay.
So, and I see Tiara got, thank you for responding. I saw that she did say that I did a budget. That's it. That's awesome. Do you want to share that or what would be the best here? Do you want me to go over how to create a budget sheet and then make a graph out of that again? Is that something we should do or what would you like to do? All right. So what we're going to, okay, cool. All right.
So
So
I
let's
guess
do,
she's probably having the same issue as me, want to see where your money is being spent, I guess. Shanika, is that something you want us to go over that you may need some help with? I just know that's with me. We don't have to do this. I'd rather do because I can go back and watch the recordings. But if it's
okay.
something that you and Tiara say, hey, let's create a budget or show us how to add this or whatever it is that you want us to create, we can
Well,
do it. If not, we can
let's,
do mine.
let's do this. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen and let's see if I can't get, all right. Now everyone can see that, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up a sample file here. Um, just give me a second here. Come on. All right, okay, there we are. All right. So if we're looking at doing a budget, I find the easiest thing to do is, okay. So this is an example, one that I created. We're looking at, say this would be my salary, say my spouse and I, like a hypothetical salary. And then down here in this section here, we can see our expenses. So one thing we can do, I kind of want to go over again. So we want to, okay, first off, I guess, how do we if we can go over again how we can add these up, right? So we can see what we're spending on what. Okay, so for example, I have here my mortgage or my rent, my utilities, auto insurance, groceries, uh, say a health club, for example, gas, pet insurance, car payment, and then my entertainment expenses right here. Okay, and these are our pretend combined expenses. Okay, and then up here in this section up here, we have our income, and then I'm just using this. This is not my real income, but
Oh,
just
I
using
see
this.
Tier's dropped hers in there. So that's something. Can we use that?
Yeah, let me see. Give me 1 second to get out here. All right.
She says, rent and utilities, 3,000 a month. Ooh, two
Okay.
cars.
All right. Let me stop sharing here for a second. Okay. I'm gonna write that down. Okay. Eating out 600 and gas 150 a month. Okay, let me write that down and let's do this. I'm gonna create a new sheet. Okay. And this is Tiara's, right? Okay,
Uh-huh. So rent and utilities, 3,000. Okay, she
gotcha.
just dropped it that two car payments. Rent and utilities, 2,000. Where's the
So car payments 2000.
No, wait a minute. No, no, no. Oh, that's two cars. Wait a minute. Maybe she wrote it wrong. Okay, she just dropped in there. So it's rent and utilities 3,000,
Uh-huh.
1,700 for two car payments. She must have didn't put it, and then $1,000 for car insurance, health insurance, life
Okay.
insurance combined.
All
So
right.
of
Let me do
all the
this.
insurance, she pays 1,000. So rent and utilities is 3,000. Two car payments is 1,700 total. 1,000 for all of the insurances. Wait a minute.
All right. So let's do this. I'm gonna do hold on. Okay, and let's see if I can't get over. It's a little hard for me to sometimes to see. Okay, so we're gonna put in
Hers actually looks similar to mine because our rent is 2,000.
the rent
So
is not cheap, that's for sure.
yes, so between that's why I'm like, ooh, because that looks very similar to ours. Between rent and utilities, we're spending about 3,000 a month.
Okay.
And
So let
where are
me do
you?
this.
Where are you? She's in Detroit, so I guess that's about the same as Atlanta.
Okay, so rent, we're gonna combine rent and utilities.
Yes, 3,000.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay, we're gonna make this look nice and neat here. Okay, and then what was the second one?
Rent and utilities 3,000. Two car payment 1,700.
We'll just put these headers in first and we'll go fill in the okay, and then the
Looked like she initially had 1,000 for the cars, but then went back and said 1,700. So it's 1,700 for two cars, 875 for all insurances. That includes health insurance, car insurance, and life insurance. That's
okay, we'll
what
just put in
she's paying a month, 875, and
okay,
eating
put
out is 600.
okay. So let's say entertainment, okay, eating out. Uh, okay. Um, all right. So that we have so rent, utilities, car payments, insurance, eating out. Was it another category or was that it?
Household 200, groceries 800.
Household. Okay. And you said groceries, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. We'll fill the amounts in here in a second. I'm just going to make these headers. Can't spell. Groceries. Okay, there we go. And is that it for
It
categories or is
looks
there one
like it.
more?
Okay, she set up a probation 175. She pays one. Oh, that is really expensive. Down here, well, down here it's about 35 to be supervised. So
Okay.
probation is 175.
Hold on 1 second.
Um, and meds 150.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to put the categories in and then we're going to put the expenses in. Okay.
Okay.
Probation. Cool. Okay. Is there one more? Anything else?
Anything else here? So you got rent, you got utilities, you got entertainment. What else do you have? I think that looks like it's it.
Okay. So when we're kind of as a refresher, what we're going to do is this is like your I'm assuming this is kind of like your average for the month, right?
She
So
said
what we're going to
Netflix
do this,
$30.
okay,
Um,
we're going to do a couple of different things with this. I'm going to hold on one second. We're going to make this okay. So when we have our headers here, we want to make them stand out, right? So we want make sure they're clear. We're
mhm.
doing right here rental utilities, car payments. We're going to go ahead and bold them. Remember, I'm just going to go ahead and give these a color as well too, just so as say if we're working with more fields, these will stand out.
Okay.
So I happen to like this color green. Wait, that's the wrong one. Oh, hold on. My bad here.
Okay, Tom. So while you're doing that, I do notice that she did put her income in. She says she makes 8,000 a month. So when you're doing a budget, is that is there a line where you would put the actual income that you're making in, or that's not needed when you're creating a budget?
So you definitely want to do that because what we're going to do, we're going to add these up and then we're going to look at the percentages. Give me one second here. Sorry, I'm working too
Okay.
fast. Okay. All right. So then I'm going to put, okay. Okay. So rent and utilities was 2,000. Was that right?
3.
Three. Cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Car payments was 1,000.
Car payments were 1,700.
Okay. Insurance was, um,
875. And that's all kind of insurance. She had health, car, and life bundled up.
gotcha. Okay. Eating out was it 600? Is that
600.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Household was 200.
Yes.
200 in groceries, and then probation was
No,
175, right?
household with 200, 800 in groceries.
I was going to say that's not a lot of groceries for $200. All right, probation is 175, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um,
And medicine 150 and Netflix 30.
okay.
So would Netflix go under entertainment, or is entertainment solely eating out, going to the movies and stuff like that?
Let's go. Well, let's do that. Let's do just so we're seeing it here. Okay. We'll do how about streaming services? We'll just put that.
Okay. I like to put my stuff like my that's what I did in my budget. I had my stuff color coded, and I think anything that was definite solid need, like your rent's got to be paid, your water, your utilities got to be paid, you got to have groceries. But other things that I probably really don't need, should have gotten rid of, I put those down, like paying for Peacock, paying for Amazon, paying for Netflix, paying for Hulu. And at some point, it's like, do you really need all them channels? Find you one and
Right.
pick what you like. So plus Paramount, so that's 5. Plus, what's the one that you stream online with the TV? X Sirius XM. Do you really need that, or
Yeah.
can you really listen to the radio for free? So I think that is. I think I don't just. I have been just spending without actually looking. And I think this is what I need, something physically to look at for me to be able
Hmm.
to rein this in and pull it back, um, to say, do you really need this, or do you really not need this? Do you need to eat out every week or every day?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm needing, and particularly a graph. So I'm definitely hopefully we can turn that into a
Yeah, hold
graph.
on. All right. Okay. And then streaming services, you said how much?
30.
30. Okay. So let's pretend like this is your monthly expenses, right? So we're gonna do. See, we'll just do this for me here. March, April, May, June. See, and now I'm filling this in, right? So we're gonna just real. Okay. So we're gonna pretend for Tira that on this we're just gonna say this is the average because I know like my mortgage doesn't change. It may change from month to month. It might change from year to year depending on the property tax we have to pay. But then for the most part, it's kind of a fixed amount. Groceries we'll pretend are going to be a fixed amount. Car payments are usually going to be a fixed amount. So what I'm going to do then, I'm just going to fill this in for rent and utilities, for all these expenses. We're going to fill these in for the month, okay, for the rest of the year.
Okay.
So there's a couple ways as a reminder. There's a couple ways we could fill it in. One is we can do the autofill. So let me just go back. So you remember we have a white cross. That means we're working in the cell. So
Okay.
down to the bottom right corner, and it goes to the small cross. And I hold down the left mouse button, and then it fills it in for me. Okay. So that's one way we can do it. If we were working with so for a separate class, I'm teaching at the library where I'm developing a worksheet now that has about 600 entries. So for that, you don't want to do the autofill. So the way we can fill this in is we can go to the bottom right corner and then double click, and then it just does that. Okay, just fills it in for us. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill all this in. Okay, all right. Hold on one second here. Okay, all right. Just stick with me because we're going to get this all
Now,
added up here.
okay, because I'm not seeing what you're seeing. What I'm seeing, nothing's moving. I see mortgage, utilities. The last one is pet insurance and car payment and entertainment. And are we looking at the same screen? Because I don't see your cursor moving at all on my end.
You don't? Do you see, okay, streaming services? Do you see everything filled in?
No.
Hmm. I'm screen sharing. Okay. Let me save this. Give me a second here. Then I'm going to open it back up. Okay. I'm going to save it. Okay. Let me close it out. Let me stop sharing, and then I'm going to share again. Okay. So give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right. And you're seeing this blank screen, right?
I see. Yes, I see you over by the file. I see you in your settings. Now I see the
Okay.
blank screen.
Now, do you see Tierra's expenses, the whole thing right now?
No, it's blank.
All right. Hold on. All right. Give me 1 second. Let me just close. Okay. Ain't that 1 second here? It should be working. All right, let me try this again. All right, and we're seeing this, right?
I see January, the months down the left side, rent and utilities 3,000, car payment, insurance, eating out, household groceries. Okay, that's what we're supposed to be seeing.
Yeah, that's what we're
Okay.
supposed to see. Okay, so we're pretending like we have a fixed amount, right? And we're an average we pay per month. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put total, okay, and then we're going to total everything up using Excel, and then we're going to figure out percentages, and then we're going to try to use that to create a graph. Okay, at the very least, we'll be able to figure out percentage.
Thank you.
All right, so to add all this up, we can do a column by column, and then we're going to do row by row. Okay, so if you remember to do this by column, we can do a formula. We're going to use the auto sum function to do this. Okay, so like I said, this just takes practice, but the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to use a shortcut. I'm going to hit on my keyboard. I'm going to hit Alt and then equal. Okay, see, then that pops up. So I'm telling the computer or Excel to add up these rows. Okay, so we're adding up January through December for rent and utilities. Okay, and then I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so 3,600. I'm going to do this for all rows here. So just give me a second. Okay. And
Oh, that is so easy.
All right.
Yes, definitely, Tara. No calculator.
Yeah, and see, this is just like a handy shortcut. I mean, you can do this by hand. You could write the formula out. Either one is fine. I just find if just for the ease of simplicity, just to use a shortcut, hit enter again. Okay. All right. Now what we're going to do is, okay, so we have what we pay for rent and utility. So here is paying $36,000 a year for rent and utilities, which is probably about average, right, for most people, especially living in a bigger city, right, like Detroit. We
Yes.
got our car payments here. We got insurance. We got eating out. We got groceries. I mean, that's $800 a month is not bad. I mean, I know I got a family, got my wife, my son. We've been cutting back on groceries, just trying to watch those bills. But even it's hard for us, even just eating, rice and beans and shopping at Aldi to spend less than $250 a month. So $200, that's about the average, right? All right. So now we're gonna add up. Okay, so we know our what we pay per month for each area. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna add up all of the expenses per month. Okay, so to do
Okay.
that, I'm going to go to the total field right here because we're doing it now by the row. Okay, so for January, we're adding up all that we spend, right? Okay,
So that's
so
B through I.
correct. Yeah, so
Okay.
B through I, exactly. So I'm going to go here to J under the total field. I'm going to do auto sum again. So I'm going to use a shortcut. Okay, and you see how now it's highlighted everything for me, right? So I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so it should be the same for every month. And what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to copy this formula down through here. Okay, down to, yeah. So I'm just going to slide it down through here, through, okay. Then we're going to add, I could have just brought it all the way down, but I'm going to do auto sum again just to add up because we want to add up. Um, well, actually, no, actually, I have to take that back. All right, so we want to add up for this field now, we want to add up the total. So give me 1 second here. Take that out. All right, now it doesn't like me. So give me 1 second here. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna do sum. Now I'm gonna write this out because when I made that mistake now, that's in that cell. Uh, it's not liking what I'm doing, but it's totally fine. So we're gonna put in B15 through I15. I'm gonna close it out. I'm gonna do it by hand. All right. So our total expenses for the year now, what we're paying for a year, we know what we're paying for rent and utilities, right?
Hmm.
For car payments, we know what we're paying per month. Okay, then we add all this up, it's $88,000. Okay, does that sound right? And so a way we can check is, hold on, to see if that looks right, is when I highlight this row, I don't know if you can see it at the screen, but it does add it up. So that's $88,000. Okay. All right. Now what we're going to do, we can figure out for each field what our for our expenses. We can figure out now what the percentages of it is of that of our income. Okay, so we have a chart. We have one here for expenses. What we can do now is we can make a separate uh, thing for our income. So if you don't mind me sharing, or we can just pretend, what did, did Tara, did you list your income in the chat? Because I don't have the
She
chat. I can't see
she
the
said
chat right.
earlier 8,000 per
Eight
month.
thousand per month. Is that right? Okay. 8,000 per month. Okay. All right. So give me 1 second here. Okay. And just kind of make this clear here. All right. And now Tierra's income. Okay. All right. and just bold that so we know we're making it stand out from the other graph or other worksheet here. Okay, so is this you right here? No one else? Okay. Just put the months in real quick here. Yeah. Then we're gonna do October. Okay, we're gonna make the column a little bigger here, just so I like to work with it, so I can actually can see it when I'm writing this out. Okay. All right, and then we're gonna put the total here, and it's 8,000 per month, right? Give or take. So we're gonna say 8,000. Okay, and since it's the same, it's consistent for every month. Unless you're like into like sales or real estate where you might be making some per month. I mean, for most of us, this is going to be true. We're going to make roughly the same amount per month. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and copy this in. What? Okay, and you see where
Yeah, just slid it.
I slid it over, right? So we know what it's going to be. Now we want to add in, we can do that in our head since it's a relatively fixed number. But let's pretend that's like 8675 or
Yeah.
something. So to make our lives easier, we're gonna add this up by using the auto sum again. So we're gonna do Alt equal. Okay, and you see here it's adding all this up for us, and it's all highlighted here. Okay, all right, then we're gonna hit enter. Okay, so you're bringing in $96,000. Okay, that's awesome. All right, so you're definitely making more than you're spending, which is what we all want to do, right?
Well, according
So
to her, Tom, she says she feels bad. You don't need to feel bad. She says that out of $8,000, based on what you're saying, is 73.80 each month. That's less than $600 left over. She says, "Oh
yeah,
my God, he is going to kill me because I spend more than that on candles." Because earlier she mentioned that she didn't say that she spends almost $800 or $900 a month just at Bath and Body Works. And
okay,
so
well,
that was before you said that out of eight
right.
thousand a month, she spent the expenses are 73.80, which is less than $600. And then she said, "Oh my God," she said, "Is that the right?" Yeah, you are correct in what you put on there, but there's nothing right about how I'm spending my money. I must learn to budget and that's the money that we make between the two of us. She said, from the looks of it, we are really in the hole because I didn't even give you the money we spent on doctor copays, speeding tickets,
Oh yeah.
emergency things such as a flat tire if anything was to happen. She said, I feel bad.
Well, I
Um,
don't feel bad because okay, when I do this, I think everyone's a lot of people are in the same boat because I know when I go through. I mean, I'm married, so I have my income coming in. My wife has her income coming in, and every month I deal with the money. So I do the same thing. I add everything up, add our expenses, and then like wow, we have like X amount left over. This is great, and then you realize at the end of the month, like you're waiting on that last paycheck because like you have nothing in your bank account. But then the reality is like these are our fixed expenses. Okay, so we're going to pretend this. We're going to say this. These are your fixed expenses. Okay, rent, utilities, car payments, insurance. Eating out may fluctuate, but let's just say you allot yourself that. For household expenses, groceries, we kind of that may fluctuate depending
mhm,
on the price of food, or maybe at the holidays you're say buying like steak and you don't really buy steak. Okay, probation, that's probably a fixed amount, right? Streaming services are a fixed amount, but then you have the way to think of this. Okay, so we have $96,000. Okay, so let's do this. All right, so we now know what we're paying for expenses. Okay, in roughly. Okay, we now know what my income is. Okay, so we can now see. Let's do this. And hold on, the separate chart here. Now we can figure out percentages, money that we have left over, um, money that we have to work with. Because as everyone knows, life happens. Like back in January, I mean, we didn't anticipate this, but our HVAC, we had to replace our furnace and our air conditioning unit. Okay. And that's not cheap, right? And then fortunately, we found a really great loan from our bank, and that really helped a lot, but we're going to be paying that off for next several years. So we didn't anticipate our expenses having to pay that loan off every month, right? Didn't, this past Tuesday, uh, tree fell on our roof. Okay. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of damage done. But we got to pay our deductible now to get that tree removed and to get whatever damage is done. So life happens, right? These expenses come up. But so what we kind of want to use this as an example to be aware of how much money we have each month to play with, and then where it's going to. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So, okay, let's say this. Um, so let's do this. So we're going to put total. I'm going to create a couple fields here. Total expenses. Okay. And then let's say total income. Okay. And then let's do this. We want to see amount, what do we say, like amount left over, amounts. Um, and then we can say what percentage. Well, I guess what do we want to look at percentage wise? Do we want to see what we're spending on groceries? Do we want to say what we're spending on going out? What we would like to look at for percentage wise?
I would say percentage of, I wouldn't say what's unnecessary because some people feel like based on Tierra, so I would say hers is sort of like mine. I have an addiction to Amazon. So
Right.
I would say in my thing with me, I think I wouldn't necessarily say it's unnecessary, and I wouldn't say that that's wrong to say that because some people
No.
may say, like with her purchase, she said she spent almost $1,000 on candles. That may be therapeutic for her. So it would be wrong for me to say, could get rid of that. So I would just say what's not fixed. Uh,
Okay.
what's not fixed. So well, that's not necessarily true because basically, if you fix spending $800 out eating out, that's considered fixed. But I would say necessaries. So maybe entertainment. Um, let's just say eating out. Eating out.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, let's just say eating out because that's what I had said initially for me.
Okay. It. I wholeheartedly agree with you that one of our biggest expenses is eating out, but we also believe too you've got to live your life, and and that's our big expense. That's our biggest expense because it brings us happiness. Okay, so percentage income on, let's say, restaurants.
Yeah, and she put eating out and streaming.
Okay, and then yeah, I bought not treated myself, but at the store I like had a very nice deal on suits over the 4th of July weekend. I really needed a new suit. And then my wife had to point out that, and I got it half off, a very nice suit. And I felt bad about spending that money. And my wife pointed out that some of her girlfriends spend that amount of money in a pair of jeans they might wear a couple times. So it's all
Hmm.
relative to what we're doing here. Um, on streaming, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Let me make this column bigger so we can fit everything in. Okay. Now, okay, so our total expenses, we know that number here, right? So that's $88,000. And what we're going to do, we could do it by the month, but it's easier to do this by the year in terms of looking at what we're spending per year on things.
Okay.
Because remember, we have a fixed, it's just going to be easier to work with the numbers. But then since we have a fixed amount, we can kind of determine, based off the year, this is what we're spending per month. Or we could do it by month too, but let's go ahead and do it for year first. Okay. So total expenses, and then
88,560.
our total. Wait, well, let's do this. I'm going to flip these around. Total income. All right. Total expenses. All right.
Okay.
All right. So this is going to be easier to read. So we said 9,600, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then our total expenses are going to be 80, what did we say? 8560.
88,560.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, so we're going to say just to show what we have per month, or what we have left over hypothetically per year based off our expenses in the year. So what we're going to do, we're going to um, make it simple, like a formula. We're going to just subtract 9,600 from 88,560. So I'm just going to do this in here.
You
So I'm
you're
going to do
separating it, you're minusing the expenses from the income, right?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So to do this, you just do a real, like we call it basic formula, because Excel can do pretty much any arithmetic, any mathematical function you can think of, from the real basic, like adding, subtracting, dividing, which we're going to do here, to really complicated calculus stuff that I don't even want to do. All right, so we start off the formula with an equal sign. I'm going to click on this cell. Okay, so you see right here it says B23, and then we're going to subtract that from this cell here. Okay, so you see that pops up. So now it's red and blue. So it's telling us that we're working with these two cells, which we want to do. So I'm going to tell Excel that I'm done entering information by hitting enter. And it should give us our amount. All right,
Okay.
so we see here we have 74.40 per month. Okay, so we can, let's just say amount left over per month. Okay, and then we can just divide. Okay, I'm going to just use my calculator because it's going to be easier. But we divide, do my phone here. Give me a second here. We're going to, hold on. Um, we're going to divide 7,400 by 12. All right, so each month you have $620 in theory to play with. Okay. So percentage on income on restaurants. Okay, so now we're going to, we said eating out is 7,200. Okay. So now
Oh,
we're going to divide, okay, this amount or income by this amount. Okay. So, all right. So we're going to do equals. We're starting with the formula and see if I can do this correctly. 9,600. Okay. And then to divide in Excel, we use the backslash. All right. Which is right by your question mark in your keyboard. All right. And then I find it easier. We could type in the cell, but since now we've kind of created this bigger spreadsheet, I'm just going to click on the cell, which is eating out. And let's hit enter. Nope, that didn't. I did it the wrong way. Give me a second here. All right. So we're going to do 7,200 divided by, now this is right, 9,600. Okay. So and now what we're going to do, we're going to put that in that number 0.075. We're going to put that into percentage, okay, to make it easier to read. So to do that, I'm going to go up here to the home tab where it says numbers. Right here, I'm going to click on percentage. Okay. So it puts it in percentage for me because it rounded it up to 8%. So you're spending roughly 8% of your income, which is not bad on restaurants. Okay. So that's not bad at all. And then let's look at what you're streaming. Okay. So doing the same thing. We're going to do percentage or hit equal. Okay. And then you said streaming services. So it's I-15, and we're going to divide that by our total income. Okay, then once again, we're going to, so it's barely, it's not even 1% of your income is being spent on that. All right, so that's not a huge expense. I mean, clearly, you're like for most people, your our biggest expense is going to be our rent, or mortgage, and our utilities. Okay, car payments. Once we can kind of knock those out, we can eliminate that expense. But as you know, with a car, even though you're not paying it, you're still going
You're
to
still
have
gonna have.
bringing your car in for repairs is always going to cost you some money. Um, like my dad used to say, like I average about plan on spending about $2,000 a year in your car to keep it up, between oil changes, brakes, everything like that. So we can do that, and then what we can also do is percentage of expenses on restaurants. So how much we're spending, our expenses is based off restaurants. So I'm just going to type that in, of expenses on restaurants or eating out. Okay, so we do the same thing. I do equal.
Well, you had that up there already. You got percentage of income on restaurants. You had it at 8%.
Well, yeah, let's see what the expenses, what as far as our expenses, what that looks like too. You see what I'm
Okay.
saying? And then what was that?
All the expenses.
Yeah, it's gonna be the same roughly. Yeah, it's gonna be about 8% either way. But just to see how that would look. And then we could do that. So really then per month, so per year for Tira, 8% of her income, for restaurants. So what 10% of your expenses and your income is being spent towards eating out, which is I don't think anything is wrong with that. If it's like 30 or 40%, you might want to scale back, but that's not bad at all. So you can kind of see, through this exercise how you could do that. And then you could create and I think for the month it would be about the same. So we can even, well, let's just put it in. Let's just try per month. Okay, and we're going to use our income to do this. So, all right, so we looked at, so roughly it's $600. So equals, and we'll just use one of these fields here. Let's just say January, and then divided by my monthly income is 8,000. Yeah, so it's going to be the same per month. Okay, so it's 8% per year, 8% per month. Does that make sense?
That does. That's
Okay.
good. She's actually eating less than we do. I mean, we spend a lot. So
It it adds up for sure. I mean, even like if you do, we kind of have stopped for a while doing like DoorDash or Uber Eats, but then sometimes too it's just easier just to do that. It's definitely expensive. So you can kind of see, by kind of creating this, you could see, you could put in your expenses, and you could pretend this is your business as well too. But you could put in your expenses and then your income, and you could do this on two different sheets if you wanted to. I think it's just easier to do it on one sheet to work with the numbers. Um, but then you could see then like, and then if I don't know if this will let us do a pie chart or not, but let me see here. Give me a second. So we wanted to put this in a chart, to see. I'm going to highlight this. Okay, and hold on a second here because it's hard for me to see my screen when I'm sharing this. Uh, okay, insert. Okay, I'm going to go to insert. And I'm going to see if this we can get this to work. I'm going to do recommended charts. All right, so you can see that they recommend a chart for us. And this is a cluster column, but then if you like I know Willisha loves the pie charts. So let's do the pie chart, okay? So then I'm gonna hit okay. And let's make this a little bigger. Okay, and you can see definitely this shows us the rent to utilities is the biggest one. And we could format this too. Hold on a second here. Okay. And remember too, you can make any adjustments you want. Because we could see here like per month. Okay, December. Oh wait, this is just showing us rent and utilities. So we can go in here. Okay, I have to make some adjustments here. Okay, let me try that again. Give me 1 second here to change that. Okay, it's not liking the. Well, let me do it one more time here. We'll get rid of that. We'll try it one more time. Let's see if the recommended one. Let's see how that one would look. So go to insert, and let's just use as if they want us to use this one. Let's see how this one would look. All right. Okay. And it's just kind of working with the information. Well, let me do this actually. Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second here. All right. Let me try highlighting this and see if that works a little bit better. To insert. Okay, that's not quite doing what I wanted to do. Let me see. All right, so I'd have to kind of play with this a little bit, but that's how you would do a chart. But then you'd kind of have to see what kind of, I guess for the information we have there, it's not. We'd have to kind of display it in a different way to get to see the chart. But at least we can kind of use this information to get our percentages as to what we're spending, and you can see, whether it be for your home, like your home budget, or for your office budget, you can you can quickly add up, use Excel to quickly add up whatever expenses and income you have coming in, and then see what you have left over, and then use the formulas as well to see what the percentages are that you are spending or taking in. Okay, does that help at all?
Very helpful to me.
Okay.
Does that help, Tiara?
And Tierra, you're doing good. Don't worry about it. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And okay. 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 Hold on. You're not out of control. Control. All right.
Okay, she did
Yeah,
have a question.
yeah.
So, what would you recommend we have in savings in case of, I guess she was mentioned when she dropped it in the chat when you mentioned about the tree fell on your house. So, what would you recommend we have in savings in case of loss of a job, unexpected expenses like a tree falling or car repair?
Well, the rule they always say is 2 months salary. But then the problem that most people have is, if something happens, say like a tree falling on your roof, and you got to pay your deductible, or you got to pay for that tree removed, that takes out your savings, right? Or most of it. But then, God forbid, if some other disaster happens, then you have to, you know, pull from the savings again. I think what a lot of people say too, from what I've read, and from what I heard from people who do personal finance, is even if you're just putting aside $50, $100, or whatever you can per month, and you keep up with it, and you try to limit your expenses, that eventually that's going to grow and grow and grow. But I think the key is just to be consistent with that. And then what a lot of people recommend doing are paying yourself automatically, like whether it be through, you can set up in your bank account for money to be drawn out to a savings
Mhm.
account every month on a fixed day, or I have through work, I have a health savings account. And we pay a pretty high deductible, but then the money, we have that money going into our in case we have like a medical emergency, we can use it for that. And I've kind of chosen to take out more money per month, just because I had a medical emergency or situation last year that kind of really drained us. Um, so it made me realize I need to have more money in my account. And it's painful up front when you get your paycheck and it's a lot lower than it normally is, but then you have to remember that's your money that's going somewhere else. So it's still your money. Um,
Yeah.
but I think just, people always say it's real, you really need to save as much as you can. But then, unfortunately, when disasters happen or situations happen, it can drain you pretty quickly. So, but at the same time too, you kind of need to live your life too, like with, going out to eat, going to Bed Bath and Beyond and doing things to make you happy too. But I think what I remember reading someone saying, if you have to pay off debt, if you're paying off a loan, would be a car loan or
Oh, I didn't think about those. I didn't even add those to my expenses.
whatever it may be, you still need to put something in savings, whether it be a health savings account or whatever it is, um, because like a job loss or like a major disaster or like a medical disaster. I mean, those could be pretty painful. So and that can really drain
Hmm.
you. So I think it's good to plan, but sometimes too, life just happens though too.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's what I've always heard. I've actually heard some people actually say it's best good practice to have 6 months
Yeah,
worth of rent expenses. And I was like, what? And they was like, yeah, because if you lose your job, sometimes on average it takes the average person 3 to 6 months to find another job. So
yeah,
it's always good, but that's really easier to say than do because a lot of people, whether you're making a lot of money or not, a lot of people just don't know they really are living check to check or a 2 to 3
right,
check worth from being homeless. And just the way the economy's going and the administration that we have, a lot of stuff going on, people are losing jobs and didn't even expect it. Like there are whole organizations now that are closing
right,
and they wasn't expecting it. So I've always heard 6 months is very hard. I do have a savings account. And I actually heard about the 50/30/20 rule a couple of years ago, which is use 50% on your expenses. And I dropped those links in the chat and I'll send them to you and email them to y'all as well. Use
hmm
30% on your needs, your wants, entertainment, your subscriptions, your candles, and use always save 20% in your savings. So that adds up. But what I think a lot of times, I think we run into a lot of instances where people really consider themselves to be well off. There are folks who are making $150,000 a year who have unexpected expenses. For
right,
instance, if you have a husband that makes that kind of money, but let's say, what do you do if he dies? And
right,
we have been people like, well, how do you budget? How do you budget? And I think people don't consider it in their budget, but I definitely think life insurance is something that people life insurance or sometimes even on your job. I know at my job it's not much, but they give us something in the event that we pass while we're still employed. So just something like that. So I
yeah,
always try to say when we do our financial budgeting classes, I always try to bring it up about life insurance because I think that's something that people do not
yeah,
consider. I know in a question up there, she had asked, what do you do when you talk about job loss? That's a lot of things that people have a problem with because they don't have life insurance. And sometimes now you've got to pick up, you got to throw GoFundMe's, you're asking for stuff, and it can really throw folks off when the main breadwinner not even have to pass. They may have got hurt on the job and now they're out and they can't get workman comp. That can really throw a wrench in. So I would
yeah,
also encourage folks to get uh life insurance in the event. I know
yeah,
that's something a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it's inevitable. We're all going to have to leave here. But in the instance that of that case, especially if you're not working, you don't ever want to be left to a point where you don't have something to help, even if it's life insurance. So I think that's
right,
a main challenge. And for me, myself is I had to trick myself. I'm really bad at going to the store saying, I'm going to the store to get one loaf of bread. And I come out and I've spent $93. And I'm like, that's
right.
a
But that's
loaf of
yeah,
bread. So my problem is because I'm a visual learner, if I don't write it down, I will get anything on the store. And then there are other little tips that people say, don't go to the grocery store when you're hungry because you tend to get what you don't want. Oh my gosh, I hadn't had, you tend to get stuff that you don't buy, that you don't need. And so some of the other little tips, because I used to be like an extreme couponer, where I
Mhm.
would go into the grocery store and I could go in the grocery store literally and buy $800 worth of grocery for $14 because I have coupons. But I
Mhm.
got so excited last month when I actually went to Kroger and I stopped doing extreme couponing since I have, I had my weight loss surgery and I don't eat as much. But I ended up going into the store and just happened to go on a day that they do double coupon day. So on my coupons, I already said save $2 or $5. But when I went in the store, I went in expecting to save 10 or $15. But by the time I left the store, I had actually saved $30. So I ended up
Right.
getting almost $130 worth of groceries for just, less than what I had expected to have it for. So those are little tips you can do too. Like I heard you mention you started going to Aldi. So that might be
Right.
something I had to tell my wife. I said, look, we might have to leave this Kroger alone and start going to Aldi and Walmart. She's a big Walmart fan, but I
Yeah.
love Kroger and Publix. But I might have to start really doing better by going to Walmart or Aldi because
Yeah.
Aldi is extremely cheaper. It's just the fact that it's so far out. I think
Yeah.
maybe doing some of those little things here may be helpful. One of the things we like is on Tuesdays. I love Mario's Pizza, and on Tuesdays you can get a large pizza, whatever kind you get. You buy one and you can get one free. My wife said, "Well, why don't we just go to Pizza Hut on Tuesday?" I'm like, "I don't like Pizza Hut," but she says, you can get a personal pan pizza for $2 at Pizza Hut on Tuesdays, and I like, okay, I like Pizza Hut, so I ended up
Right.
going to get 4 or 5 of the little personal pans. I only spent $10 when in fact
Right.
I had been spending $22 on one pizza. So little things like that you can do. You can still enjoy yourself, like Tom said, but maybe there are just little different ways that you could do too that
Yeah.
also help with when you're looking at.
Yeah. I think too, like, when you look into your expenses, like, we have an Aldi in our neighborhood. It makes it a little easier, but even with Aldi, you can't get everything you need, especially, with you, with a, I have like a young son, so he needs certain things. So, we do make it that point to go to both stores. But, I think the key is you need to live your life, but sometimes too, just life happens. I'm not like, not oversharing here, but I'll just share that with the group that, like, my wife is fine, but what was it, 6 years? It was during the pandemic. We found out that she had breast cancer,
Mm.
and then she went through about 4 years of treatment. And we had health insurance, but then, is if you ever had anybody experience cancer before, and you get those, you look at your. She went through a lot of therapy sessions. Chemotherapy sessions were costing about $300,000 per session,
Ooh.
and insurance only wants to pick up so much. So then you got your insurance premiums, you got your out of pocket payments, and that it added up. And so we had about 4 years of that, and that and we were fine. We were able to absorb that, but that something like a calamity like that could really, as Alicia was saying, you could be making a great living, but then if you're spending $10,000, $15,000 a year in medical expenses, that can kill you. I mean, no pun intended. That could just ruin you. So there's stuff like that. So definitely, like, life insurance is a great idea. Like Aflac, if they offer it through your work, or if you can afford it through your, because they do offer it for personal for private people as well too, for people, I mean, individually. It's worth looking into, because especially in it, you might be paying it month after month, like, $5, $10 per month, for several years, and you're thinking, well, why am I spending this money? I never need it. But then when you need it, it can really pay out, and really help you out. And we were fortunate that we had Aflac, which kind of helped us, a lot in that regard too, with providing expenses. So there's the small things you can do. I think the biggest thing is just being aware of what we're spending. And like Alicia was, I'll echo what Alicia was saying, that we have friends that do very well for themselves and make really good livings. But I'm also convinced they probably are broke too, because they take very expensive trips. They have multiple expensive cars. They have huge houses. Um, and one of our friends too was a partner in an accounting firm, probably made about $500,000, and she lost her
Mm.
job. And then she's had to find a job that probably equal that amount of money because her lifestyle was such that she had all that money, but it turned out that all she was spending most of her money. So it's sounds easier if you make more money, but then just I think everyone has to be mindful. So I think it's always a good example or good situation, whether it be for your business or for your personal use, just to come up with a simple budget sheet and look at what you're spending, look at what you're taking in, and then is there something you can cut out? Um, so, it's just food for thought. So I know, like, for us, we're all talking here about going out to eat. I think that's totally fine. I think if I was looking at, I'm not, this isn't me, but let's say if I was spending $300 a month on brand new sneakers, right? And do I really need, I mean, I don't do that, but let's say if I was spending that amount of money on sneakers, um, that probably might be expense I could probably take out, or maybe once every
Mhm.
6 months buy a new pair of shoes or something like that.
So you can still get what you want sometimes, just do it in moderation.
Exactly. Or,
Yeah.
like I was mentioning, like I'm just not to discuss the suit thing to death, but like I'm, for my job now, I'm doing more outreach events, and going to, community events. I like to, want to look, represent myself and look good. And then it's also like, sometimes you have to wear a suit. And then my suit was from when I got married 15 years ago. And to put it mildly, I don't weigh what I weighed when I was 15 years ago. Okay. So put on some weight, right? Body has changed. But then, I was able to find a very nice suit that was half off. Okay. And even that was from a, factory, like an outlet store. So there's ways you can find it if you're willing to, to find items. So I think it's okay to treat yourself occasionally. I think it's okay to buy new clothes. I think it's okay to, you know, go to a restaurant you want to eat at, even though it's not half off night, But so I think we all got to live our life, but I think it's
Yeah.
important to know where our money is going to.
Well, thank you so much. And Tierra says she's going to ask her boss on Monday about I guess the insurance I had mentioned that you're through your employer. And she
Yeah.
said she don't have life insurance, or her husband don't have life insurance, but so they definitely need to get things in order. This class has been extremely helpful. Thank y'all for hosting this, and you're very welcome, Tierra. I know sometimes we get a little long-winded. I know I will do, but sometimes I also think it's very helpful when other folks are able to share their own personal experiences. I do it when we do our moving from personal credit to business credit. I teach a class on business credit, and people always want to know why you got to work on personal credit. I'm trying to get credit for my business. Why they need to know my personal credit? Because your person, who you are as a person, is going to determine how you're going to pay back as a business. And so I do find it very helpful to let people know. And it was hard work that I went from in 2020. I went from a 313, I think, after I got out of prison. My credit score was like a 311 in 20. I ain't no telling what it was before then. And then by me being unemployed from 2011 when I got out, and then didn't get a job until 2020. My credit score when I moved to Atlanta was a 312. I didn't know you can get credit scores that low. And today
Hmm.
my credit score is like a 720. I didn't pay anybody to get it done. It was just a matter of me reaching out, me doing a lot of my education online, paying stuff on time, getting stuff closed out. So I think it's very helpful when you see other things. It's never to feel bad about it because you're not the only one
Right.
doing a lot of spending. Like with me, there's Amazon is at my door every day almost. And it's things that I don't even need. And it's stuff that I've actually had in my basement probably 4 years, ain't went and picked up. And so I have a really bad habit of spending. So I know I needed to see this class. And I know through these last sessions, me actually being, like I said, I'm a visual learner. So me being able to see something is like, wow, Wallace, you need to really, really need to tame this down. Because I really do spend too much money. Whether that means you got two cars and you're paying a lot of money on a car, do you refinance it through a different company? I think one of the things I also want to learn on is, and I get a lot of questions about, I am a hoarder, but one of the questions I get a lot about is, I read it online and people say refinances. I have no what that mean actually, but when you have one credit card that may be 45 or 35, a high APR percentage, people will say transfer your balance to somewhere else. So I'm still learning these kind of things in myself, what
Hmm.
actually hurts your credit and what happens not. But all of that stuff, I think, is rooted in the way we budget things. When you have an unlimited budget, that means spend freely, spend freely. But then I think when you do come down and you say, um, if I'm going to be buying, renting, maybe I should be buying. Is it cheaper to be buying? Do I necessarily have to go to Red Lobster every Friday, or could I just go ahead and bring it down a notch and go to Captain D's on Friday? So the goal is you want fish on Fridays, you want seafood on Friday, but do you have to go to the shrimp boil and spend $180 for two people to eat, or could you very well go get that same amount of seafood from somewhere that's a little cheaper? So it is about doing things in moderation, but also asking yourself, do you really need this? And so yeah, I want to make sure I do that. But this has been a very, very great class. We will actually upload if Tom is comfortable with it. Tierra, if y'all are comfortable
Absolutely.
with it,
Yeah.
we can put this on YouTube. And it'll be available. I'll go ahead and try to get it downloaded today, but I definitely will send you those links about how to budget. Some people use the 50-30-20, but then other people use a different method. I don't know if anybody on the call, I know Tierra, do you have a certain method? I've heard of certain things called pay yourself first. Now that's the one thing I do. I do feel very personable that if you're working, I work very hard. I'm sure y'all work very hard. That is my form of budgeting. I'm gonna pay myself first because I used to
Mhm.
do it backwards. I used to pay everybody else, and then I didn't have any money to do anything with. So I kind of flipped it a couple years, and I'm like, I'm not gonna keep doing that because now I'm miserable while I'm working. I'm not enjoying my money, and my wife says it all the time. You need to enjoy your money, Walisha. So even though I don't get to do too much what I want to do, I make it a point to keep my nails done. So I'm gonna make it a point that when I get paid every 2 weeks, if I can, I'm gonna get my nails done. Do I? And I haven't had Amazon in like a month, so it was just a matter of me saying do something for yourself first, pay yourself first before you pay everybody else. If you're gonna pay yourself, pay your tithes and pay your expenses and stuff like that. But also auto draft has helped with avoiding certain things. That's very easy and not getting everything around the same side, refinancing and doing that kind of stuff. So I think once you look at your stuff and maybe when you finish yours, I know Tierra, you said you had already started yours, but I think once you get it out and we couldn't really get a lot going with Tom doing, this field and because he's an expert at it, doing this field and learn the ads and sums. You can go back and look at one in particular. Can't remember the session number of it, but it is the one that says functionings and pivot charts. Was that right, Tom?
With the
The
formulas, yeah.
functions. Yeah, so you definitely want to look at that one that talks about formulas and pivot charts. I think we had one, and it'll show you how to do your charts. He was very slow on that to show you how to create a chart, different kind of pie charts, and also how to actually do that adding up, because that's my biggest thing, how to add up rows and stuff like that. And I think you'll find it very helpful. And I want to ask you one question, Tom, before we left. I know
Yeah.
when you open up, you said you handle the money and you do this. Do you do this every month? I mean, you literally have a spreadsheet on your computer and you're putting bills in every month. You do
I
that?
do, yeah. I
So
do.
is that something that is you hate doing, or is it something that has become
Well, I
natural to
hate
you?
seeing how much money, we don't have at the end of the month, but then it's also too, I can look at too to see where, because once you have it set up, it's really easy to do. But then the trick is just setting it up, and it's something as simple as like what we did in class today, where you just take your expenses, and then take what you have coming in, and just look and see. Then I know too, like it allows us to see like some things, like my carpet, I have like 3 payments left in my truck. I can't, I have to pay that every month, right? I can't change that. But the thing we looked at is because like for everybody, times are getting tough, like groceries are expenses, getting expensive, or, electrical bill went up, all that stuff. So we were able to look at our expenses and see, okay, the one thing we can change immediately is cut back on the groceries. So it kind of allows you to see what you can change and what you can't change. You got to
So do
pay
you
your
do that in
mortgage
the
every.
beginning or the end of the month?
I do at the beginning, and then I see, because also too it depends on when you're getting paid.
Okay.
We get paid. For us, we both get paid on the 1st and the 15th every month.
Okay.
So we kind of know we can have to be the previous job I got paid once a month on the 20th for some reason. So it was easier for me to do it on the 20th. It just depends when your money's coming in. But just it's just helpful to do that. And I did put in my email address um, in the chat. So if you ever need, you can write it down. But if you ever need it, like if, with help with setting up a spreadsheet or anything with Excel or just some general questions, don't hesitate to reach out and talk to me because I always love doing that. That's a big part of my job is helping people. So don't hesitate if you need help setting something up, or if you want me to look at something and see, um, um, what's going on with that. And I agree too, like the comment too. There is something nice too about seeing a you know a loan go away gradually, whether it be like that I mentioned that HVAC loan we're paying off, seeing that go down
Hmm.
every month or every year. Whether it be a credit card that you have or a car payment, it goes away. That it's nice to see that going away too, because once you make those payments too, that goes away. That then your credit rating goes up too, because you can show you can pay your bills, you can pay off the loan. But
Okay,
yeah,
and
so
see,
it's
I see that with them over there. That's going to be my next question because Shanika says there's a joy of seeing the loan drop off, but Tierra turned around and asked the question that I was going to ask: what to do with that money? Now Tierra asked, "What do you do with that money?" And Shanika said to save it or put it on another bill. Snowball
yeah,
effect. Now
yeah.
I
So I think
wanted
it's
her before we can get off to explain because I've heard of snowball effect and avalanche effect. I can't remember which is which about you tackle one debt and then pay it off and then do the rest, or do you take all five debts and put a limit on each? I can't remember which one, so hopefully Shanika will educate
there's
us on that. But I was going to ask you, you said you got 3 car payments left. What are you going to do with that money? Are you going to put it in savings now
put it
that
in
you
savings.
so now that you have that extra money, you're not going to see it as, oh, this is extra money I can go buy
No,
suits with. You're going to use that to put in savings.
no, and we're going to put it into savings because the reality too, both my wife and I both have 2016 cars, or cars are 2016. Now, granted, we both have very limited miles in both those cars, and we're trying to keep it as have a 7-year-old. So one of our goals is to keep those cars until he's 16, and then one of those cars will be his. But eventually, we're going to have 2 car payments again, right? So we're going to try to put that money aside every month for a
Um,
car or for expenses related to the car. Because as your car gets older, it's just like you know an average repair is about $1,000 for your car, right?
mm,
So you're going to need that money to make keep those cars maintained. You mentioned the snowball, the avalanche. I'm not I've heard of both of those. I think one is basically you look at, let's say you have 5 or 6 or 7 things you got to pay off. One theory is you pay off a little per month on each one. The other one is you take either your biggest one or your smallest one,
mm-hmm.
depending on how you want to look at it. Some people say look at the smallest one first because you can pay it off and you feel that sense of accomplishment. Then you can use that money to pay off the other loans. A good idea too is to put that money into savings because you don't want to get in a situation where you had this extra money and now you're going to spend it
You
so
see it
one of
as
the
now
reasons
I
I'm
got money to ball with. You should be using it
exactly
as to save.
yeah. So if there's a potential that I'm up for at work, I'm up for promotion, which is great. And it's potentially going to be I'm going to be a higher pay grade. So if I get it, I'm going to get more money. So the temptation would be, oh, great, now I have an extra whatever per month per paycheck. Well, that's going to go right into savings or right into helping us,
Okay.
live as opposed to, oh, wow, I got all the extra money. Because I remember years, long, long time ago, I think when I was early 20s, um, friend told me his boss told him kind of a similar story that as you get older, you start moving up in the world, you make more money and then you're just going to spend that money, whether you're going to be a nicer car or a nicer house or nicer
Mm-hmm.
clothes. And the key is just to try to live on the money, that kind of the essentials. But I think it's, everyone, and I always remind people too, regardless of your situation, just remember that a lot of people right now, especially in our country, are struggling. Like Alicia said too, a
Yes.
lot of people, even people who are making 6 figures, are probably living paycheck to paycheck, okay, or struggling to pay bills. So there's no shame There's nothing wrong with that at all, too. And that it's just called living your life, right? And trying to get through the day. So,
Okay.
well, and I want to thank everyone for the time. Like I said, if you ever need to contact me, you have my email address in the chat. So go ahead and take a minute to write it down. Otherwise, I really appreciate everyone coming
And
in.
I'll
This
make
is
sure I email it as
yeah,
well.
yeah. And
Shanika, did you want to say anything about it since we talked about the snowball effect? Okay.
yeah, I see
Okay.
it there.
Well,
Yep.
thank you. Well, I'm glad y'all actually learned. I see Tierra dropping stuff in the chat, so I'm glad you actually learned something and y'all found this to be very helpful. And that was the purpose of these. So I am looking forward to this, and we'll definitely make sure we keep you on the mail list when we start our next event or do anything. So we thank you
Yep.
all very much for joining us. I will stop the recording, and of course, when I email you both, I will send all of the links in the chats that's being dropped, as well as Tom's information as well. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we look
All right.
forward
Thanks, everyone.
to having y'all have a great rest of your Saturday.
All right. Are you too?